All right, welcome to The Boost, conversations with people promoting mental health. And I'm back here with Linea Johnson from the Thrive Shift, where she's the founder and CEO and author and all sorts of good things. And also the first person to be on my podcast twice. So welcome back, Linea.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm very honored. So I hope that I can be eloquent enough to be worthy.
You're going to be wonderful. And let's just be real. It's at like 8 in the morning, and we have had both busy weeks, and here we are, taking our first sips of coffee. And the beautiful thing is people can listen to this whenever they want.
But that's a commitment, right? We're
Hey,
committed.
we're showing up. We're showing up. So this is a special edition for Mental Health Month. Sometimes it's called Mental Health Awareness Month. And you have been so generous and thoughtful. You've shared a bunch of your thoughts about Mental Health Month and driving systemic change. And this is kind of a recap of some of those thoughts that we want to share out in this format. But today I really wanted to talk small. We've talked a lot of big ideas over this week. You have really. But I wanted to talk about Mental Health Month when it comes to you, the person, or you, the community. And I always default to working local. I love to think big ideas. But when you think about Mental Health Month as it comes to you, as it relates to you, just talk about sort of your impression of this month and this experience. What are you seeing out there? And especially as it relates to you and your life.
Yeah, I think that mental health is a great month, as I've talked about, to start conversations and to allow yourself to be vulnerable and open up to your community, to your found family, to people that you feel safe with. There NAMI, and there's lots of local mental health organizations that are doing really great things. So it might be a good time to find the local support group that you can connect with, or people that are doing advocacy locally. I think it's a great time to kind of find your allies because people are speaking up more than they might normally. One thing, obviously we need to keep it going year round, but it is a nice time where you can see, oh, these are the people that are really care about mental health and are speaking out.
I think that's one of the most beautiful things about it. I'm a firm believer in just anything that's the antidote to loneliness, for starters, and anything that lets us see somebody's true perspective on the topic. And so for me, I live a lot on LinkedIn, and I'm just able to see, some of the people that I may look up to or just haven't met yet, that we have all of a sudden this common bond that stretches across industry or organization or town. So there's a closeness that I've been able to create with people, even if I don't know them in real life, in person per se, because I see what they're sharing. And also different events are happening this month, which is a really cool way to be intentional about showing up to sort of a micro community. There's one that happened in California a couple weeks ago. And speaking of NAMI, like I got to meet the CEO of NAMI, Dan Gillison. I was like, oh my goodness, like that's a person I wouldn't really have a lot of chances to meet. Are there people that you're following or people you're connecting with that you're especially kind of tuned into what they're saying or sharing over Mental Health Month?
Well, obviously, you. I actually really love the content that you put out and the people that I've connected through because I'm not a therapist. And so I've seen a lot of really great content from the people that are going to be speaking at the conference. I work a lot with One Mind. And so the things that One Mind and the Staglin family do, I'm always a big fan of. I have been really trying to just broaden the people that I follow, make sure that I'm following more diverse communities. It's also AAPI month, so trying to make sure that I'm aware of all the different pieces that go into mental health and intersectionality within mental health.
Hmm. I noticed that. I'm
Endless, a
glad you
lot of
mentioned
people,
that.
but
I
my
noticed.
brain's tired.
No, you're good.
I
We're
didn't
gonna
list
we're
as
gonna get.
many people out.
It's okay. It's like your Grammy speech. If you leave some people out, it's okay. But you mentioned the Staglin family, and I noticed that Brandon Staglin liked something that you posted or shared the other day. And I thought, oh, I didn't know that, you were working closely. What do you do with One Mind? That's an organization a big fan of. They run an annual event in Napa, which just blows it out and raises a ton of money for amazing causes. I've met Brandon a couple conferences throughout the years. But what do you do with them?
Well, it will be announced soon, but they do really wonderful work. So they support scientists. They do a lot of work around, they have a big award for research and an upcoming big scientist. They have a new organ thing that they're doing, an accelerator for startups around, specifically around mental health and behavioral health. So they're doing lots of cool stuff with that. And then they have One Mind for Work, which is specifically around the workplace. So I'm just going to say the things that they're doing, but I'm always a big fan. And they care a lot about making sure that lived experience is put into all of that. Brandon's been very outspoken about the fact that he has schizophrenia and lived experience. So I think that's one of the things special about them is they speak out from their own family perspective as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, his lived experience and his boldness is what I picked up on. I think I first met him at Hollywood in Mind maybe 2 years ago, and and he stood up and had amazing things to say, and it came from his heart and from his life, which I was really impressed with. So I will ask you that question in another couple of months or something, or I'll just see a huge announcement. I'll be reading a press release and I'll be like, "Oh, I knew her. Now she's gone big." No, you're already big. You have your own lived experience with bipolar disorder. What talk about yourself? Like what are you doing for yourself, or trying to do for yourself? What are sort of those processes or methods or intentions that you sort of use to put yourself in the best place possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Self-care and as an entrepreneur, as a, newish business, I have to make sure that I'm taking time to take care of myself because I think that that's one thing that we can always do more in work, and doing the hard work to stop, I think is just as much in
Mm.
work as, doing marketing, as doing your admin kind of piece. So forcing myself to actually watch TV or take a bath or take a walk with my dog, actually forcing myself to check out and stop working is one of the biggest things that I can do for myself. And I'm lucky I have a family that will remind me. My husband will sometimes just take my phone, which is very helpful. But yeah, having the time to actually force myself to stop and have self care.
That's good.
What do
Yeah.
you do?
That's
Do you have any tricks?
Well, I'm right there with you. I feel like talk about like the lived experience of the entrepreneur, and we're not we're not running massive corporations yet. These are hustle businesses, but I try not to slide into hustle culture as something I put out into the marketplace. But the honest truth is I am working tremendously hard, and same as you, it's almost like the saying, if you don't have time to meditate for 1 hour, you should meditate for 2 hours. And getting myself the freedom to unlock from the 9 to 5 experience Monday through Friday, working for the weekend pattern, which has really been ingrained in me and lots of people from the very beginning, from kindergarten, they whoever they are, you start to get trained in these systems, and whether or not they're for good purposes or just no purpose at all. So to your question, I'm trying to give myself the freedom to find my flow. And that might look and be very different. And the needs that I have might be very different than other people. I mean, it's almost like you meet one person and you meet one person. Yes, there are some universal, things we can all learn, and I'm totally rambling. But my point is allow myself to tell myself what I need and accomplish or allow that in that moment, and not listen to the voices that are saying, I need to do this or that. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely. I've talked to actually quite a few people that unfortunately have been laid off or fortunately are starting their own companies. And we were talking about that almost like you feel like you're always being watched when you're in the workplace, even if you take time off, even if your bosses don't care, you're like out in the park, like feeling like you're you're going to be caught, you know? And so I feel like I'm finally letting the ice thaw a bit and letting myself just move out of this kind of, this is the activist in me, but like the capitalist watch state, but allowing myself to just be and know that I have the time to do it for myself. I will get it done.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And if it's anything like my experience, being out in the wild is what I call it, comparing lions in the zoo to lions in the wild are very different things. But being an entrepreneur in the wild, I realized that my work has a quality to it that is hyper incentivized by specific things that you just can't fake, or I couldn't fake in the workplace. I tried to fake. So do you find your quality or efficacy of work is raised being an entrepreneur based on how you're built and designed and how you are, who you are?
Oh, that's such a deep question. I feel like this would take much longer than the time we have. But I do find I'm trying to find myself again because I feel like when I was in the workplace, I am a people pleaser, a perfectionist. I'm trying to get out of that and find again, like, who is my authentic self? Who do I want to be? When it comes to a personal brand, what's just me? And I'm trying to find myself again without the context of like within this workplace, within this culture that I'm trying to fit in. So it's been an adventure and also terrifying, but I'm also allowing myself to, I can finally speak out a little bit more on things that I care about activist wise, or, things that I'm not, maybe I would worry about in the workplace. So I'm able to be, I don't know, think more about advocacy than I think maybe I allowed myself to earlier. I
Wow,
know.
I wish we could talk a lot more, but we both have things to get to. I know, but I did want to say something about your comment, which is one of the most amazing things about having a podcast or having conversations like this is when I was listening, I realized that I was seeing myself in you. And that ability to connect with someone is the most magical thing. And going back to a point I made about the antidote to loneliness, like this is one of those things where we can get together and talk and yes, record it and other people can hear it. But I know podcast hosts like to thank their guests, but I really do want to say thank you for sharing, because in the middle of your last point there, I just realized something very deep is happening. Something very amazing is happening when humans get together to talk about what's really going on.
Absolutely. And I think when we can finally get to a place where we can be vulnerable and courageous and open up about these things, that's when the magic happens. I did make a little list of tiny things that we can do to advocate in Mental Health Month. So we can learn, we can read up on as much as we can follow one another, let ourselves be a little uncomfortable and challenge what we believe and what we, understand about the world, and advocate in the workplace, in schools. You can go to town halls, you can talk to your legislators and vote. So there's lots of things that we can do that are manageable for one person. Yeah.
Yeah. And that actually move things forward in some way.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool. Thank you for sharing that list. Reading. Yeah, pick up your book. Do you want to talk about your book for a second?
Sure. So I wrote my book with my mom. It's my experience with bipolar. My mom is a family member and a specialist in special education and behavior disorders. And we wrote it in 2012. It's called Perfect Chaos. Any more books are sold, I still think. But yeah, I hope that it connects to people.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming on the show. And thank you for being a speaker later this year at the Mental Health Marketing Conference. I'm so stoked about that. Looking forward to that presentation, which we'll talk a lot more about. But thanks for doing this today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.